Hi, this is Phil from Mahalo.com, here with a review of Chair and Epic Games' new role-playing fighter Infinity Blade, available for the iPhone and the iPad. There's a lot to say about this game. The amazing Unreal Engine 3D graphics, the subtle depth of the combat system, and the atmospheric sound design all contribute to make this one of the most anticipated game releases yet for the App Store. That's not to say Infinity Blade is without flaws, but it's a heck of an achievement for the mobile gaming market and a serious stab at getting the more hardcore gaming audience into iPhone and iPad games. No wonder it's the fastest grossing app of all time. The game begins in the throne room of a large and mysterious castle where you fight a character named the Dark Knight. After beating him, you face the ominous white-clad persona seated behind him named the God King. Try as you may, you won't beat him on this first attempt. He kills you and steals your soul with his sword. You're then returned to the outside of the castle as your previous incarnation's son 20 years later to avenge your father's death. This will start your first playthrough, or bloodline as they're referred to in the game. The structure of Infinity Blade is pretty simple. You start on the outside of the castle, making your way toward the God King while battling individual enemies in sword combat, gaining gold and XP after defeating each foe. You'll reach the God King in your first few bloodlines, but being that he's a level 50 enemy, it'll probably take you a few tries to actually beat him. After fighting the God King, you return to the outside of the castle to start the journey all over again. For combat mechanics, Infinity Blade employs swiping, tapping, and gesturing, as well as some controls on the bottom of the screen dedicated to defensive maneuvers. Your attacks come in the form of combinations, which you string together by swiping different angles and directions across your device's screen. To fend off attacks, you can parry, block with your shield, or dodge out of the way using the arrows at the bottom of the screen. Your character is also able to use magic during their fights, both offensively and defensively. You can heal yourself, repair your shield, or launch fire, ice, or poison attacks using different dedicated gestures. As your enemies get tougher, magic will be your lifeline to advancing through the game. As I mentioned earlier, your character levels up as you defeat opponents, and you're able to dole out your XP across 4 skills: health, attack, shield, and magic. As you play through the game, you'll definitely want to experiment with the wide variety of items at your disposal, but the way Infinity Blade gives you items and XP might annoy some players. As with all RPGs, your character starts with some pretty shoddy stuff that you'll definitely want to trade out as soon as you can. However, if you trade out an item before mastering it, you'll extend the time it takes for you to level up, as you're only able to increase your skills once you master the items you're using. Then, once the items are mastered, they don't give you XP anymore, so even if you have an awesome weapon and a magic ring that really works for you, the game will only reward you for using items you haven't mastered. It's a subtle thing, but you shouldn't have to choose between winning fights and potentially winning fights in favor of gaining a higher level. There's also gold to be collected throughout the castle that you can use to buy new items, but a lot of times it's hidden, so you have to keep your eyes peeled during the few non-fighting moments of the game. The cyclical structure of Infinity Blade has an odd way of marrying a feeling of an epic challenge with totally repetitive tedium. On the one hand, it's fun to upgrade your gear and test yourself against enemies whose skills and abilities are increasing to challenge your own, but on the other, you might find yourself a little bored fighting the same characters over and over. To combat this, Epic Games has already announced DLC in the form of free booster packs which promise to include at least one new enemy type, the Marrow Fiend, raise the level cap to 45, and offer a few new weapon options. There's also talk of dungeon levels as well as online multiplayer to follow in the near future. All in all, Infinity Blade is a great handheld game and can stand up to anything the DS or PSP has to offer, but it does have its faults. The leveling system could use a little polish, and the dodging controls sometimes just don't work. But for the most part, gameplay is gorgeous, exciting, and most important, very fun. This game is definitely worth the $5.99 asking price and dramatically raises the bar for what can be achieved on this new generation of Apple devices. I give Infinity Blade a 4.5 out of 5. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and rate this video. And if you need help getting through the game, visit mahalo.com/InfinityBladeWT. Keep your swords sharp and happy gaming.